You are listening to Sample and Behold, a weekly podcast where we explore a musical genre and a music artist we think exemplifies it. I'm Johnny Walker Dread, and I'm joined by the Micro Dreads, Mickey and Mikey.
That's me.
Yep.
In this inaugural installment of Sample and Behold, we will investigate dark wave and one of the all-time dark wave greats, Gary Numan. Both Micro Dreads, and especially Mickey,
Yes.
are fans of dark wave, and especially Gary Numan. And yes, this is the same Gary Numan who became internationally famous for the song Cars some 40 years ago or so. So let's play a few clips of Gary Numan, and we'll come back and discuss his music and dark wave.
I can make you my prisoner, but you a dead man talking. When you found the oceans, like you said you would. You come back for God's mercy and pretend that he hates you, but then you wish and just listen. You can drown in your sorrow and pretend you are helpless, but then you wish and just listen. This is always your one life. I won't pretend that it matters, but don't you wish and just listen. This is always your one alone. I won't pretend that I'll miss you, but don't you wish and just listen. I'm a ghost in the dark, and I'm yours. I belong in the past, and I'm yours. Like a song you forget, and I'm yours. Like a dream in the night, and I'm yours. The wrong place, the wrong time. I am down now. And I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm not asking for a miracle. And I'm not asking you to remember me. Not asking for the gods to call.
So Intruder is the brand new hit song from the new album Intruder. That's the title of the album. But what was the second one? I didn't quite catch that.
The Seed of a Lie.
That's
Okay.
off the Sacrifice album.
That's off Sacrifice.
Yeah, yeah. Sacrifice was a really important album. I think that was the album right after Machines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right after his low point. He had
Yeah.
really hit rock bottom.
So that was actually, I would argue, probably the turning. I mean, that is the turning point of Gary Numan. Sacrifice is actually when he first met his girlfriend and now wife too. At the time Machines came out, I want to say he had gone through a breakup too. He was just in a weird place. And then he met his now wife, Gemma. Gemma O'Neill, she was actually the one who explained to Gary Numan, look, the reason why your music's not working so much anymore is because you've gone away from what people really enjoy. And actually, it might actually be good to show the listeners a couple of the songs off of the Machines album to kind of give them an idea of just how drastically different the sound was. It was quite different.
That was a terrible album, and even he admits it. He had hit a low point.
Yeah, no, he did.
And one thing about Gary is that he's always been very honest as to about why he was struggling. He wanted a top 40 hit, something terrible, and he was like pursuing it.
Yeah.
And basically selling his soul to try to get, that big hit.
Numan actually had a lot of low self-esteem at the time. He was basically trying to remove himself from his own music and still be relevant. Mm-hmm. But you really can't do that because he was losing all of his original fan base. How many copies of Our Friends Electric sell?
Oh boy, I don't know. It was huge. It was a number one in England.
I think it was over 1 million or something like that. And he was saying by the time it got to Sacrifice, he sold 3,000 copies. That's how many people he lost. But his wife explained to him, like, you got to put yourself back in the album. That's why people liked you, but he just didn't buy it. And he said it took him years to realize how right she was. So he got back into this album and he went back to like the roots, and then it started trending again. He started doing well again.
Interesting thing about it is that while he was trying to remove himself from the music, Sacrifice, he played almost all the instruments. So when Gemma got through to him saying, you really need to take control back of your music, he went full bore with it. He took over everything, but it worked. I mean, Sacrifice is a fantastic album.
Well, it also helped that she was the leader of his fan base.
Yeah, that's right. He met the leader of his fan base and decided to marry her. Let's go ahead and play some more tunes, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about Gary Numan and Darkwave.
Sometimes it almost makes me cry. Sometimes it seems to call my name out loud. Sometimes it feels like I'm alone. And then it comes for me again. I'm told it's Scorpion reality dream. I'm told it's called the Great American Lie. In a world of grim obsession, we were torn from our life of isolation. We were pulled from our path of least resistance, and the song we sang, what became of us.
Getting back to Darkwave, you hear lots of machine sounds, very low register, industrial and dark.
Yeah, isn't that just industrial?
Yeah,
What's that?
very
I
industrial.
thought dark wave was like new wave, but with somber lyrics and mood.
Well,
With like a minor key sort of, and then you play different variations off the minor key.
I think that Gary Numan sort of exemplifies that sound.
And in fairness, Wikipedia says Splinter, which is that album. They describe it as industrial and dark wave. So you're both correct. Let's just not go talk about it anymore. Let's talk about the one thing that all those songs have in common: his antipathy for religion, which all those songs have. Sacrifice is the first album where you start seeing the themes of afterlife, the themes of religion, his struggles with how people use that to motivate themselves and motivate what they do. And then Pure, I believe, has a prayer for the unborn. So it's not until about 6 years later his son dies, which I think the music gets a lot more industrial after that, like far more industrial, far more bleak. The only reason why I bring this up is because the songs that you played, I think every single one is talking about afterlife in some capacity. And he's never left that theme because it works and he found his audience for that.
I think that sort of fits in with the dark wave movement as well, because I don't think that the dark wave movement was ever very kind to religion in general. Mm-hmm.
That would make sense, though. It's always somber or very, I hesitate to use the word hopeless, but almost hopeless lyrical like imagery, you know?
Melancholy is really the term I would use. And going back to the early days of dark wave with Peter Murphy and Bauhaus,
right,
which were sort of some of the early precursors of this. I used to listen to this label called the 4AD label, which was kind of a mecca for this dark wave stuff. And they had Clan of Zymox and Dead Can Dance. And I would suggest to the viewers that they should check out some of these older albums because these bands were really quite good. And in a way, you might think of that as like first generation dark wave. Whereas Gary brought in like the second generation where you're starting to see a lot more industrial underpinnings from it. If there's really kind of a common theme that you see in all of Gary's music, besides sort of the religious, or you might say anti-religious undertones, and that is that real kind of monster under the bed industrial growling that shows up in a lot of his songs. And I say monster under the bed, I mean, it sounds like demons coming through the wall kind of thing. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think you're onto something too, because I remember I read up on the Sacrifice album, and this album actually was, I know we're not talking about Sacrifice much anymore, but that album actually was not a top hit. It did not sell well, but I remember seeing names like Nine Inch Nails, Foo Fighters, Marilyn Manson. They were all very influenced by that album. And I think the dark wave that Numan brought in, because you're right, he's not the first I wouldn't call him the first generation of dark wave, but he brought in a certain style that really resonated with people in big ways.
I think he's a natural for it.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it, Gary tried everything. He tried jazz, he tried dance, he tried everything to get back into the limelight. And ultimately he settled into dark wave, and he's just really good at it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and play some more tunes here, and then we'll come back.
We ran from the wars of man, from everything you are and will be. We are invisible. We are that ghost nation. Songs of God, and that that show me the light. Okay, you safe. Okay, you woman. Okay, you there alone forever. Someone is talking, but it's not conversation. Sounds more like a voice in my head. It says, I live in nightmares, I'm the new god of panic, and I'm waiting for you to come home to me. So boy, welcome to sleep. I'm gonna make you bleed. Boy, welcome to sleep. I'm gonna make you bleed.
Mikey, you went to this concert. What did you think?
It was pretty cool. I
You
liked
heard
it.
it. You heard it here, folks. It was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. I liked it. Very theatric.
My deadpan brother.
I mean, I
Yeah, it
don't
was
remember
great.
a whole lot of it, but it was nice and had like a lot of lasers or something.
Yeah. I remember one of our relatives being, "Oh, where should we sit?" And I just like, no. I'm gone. I'm not sitting. This is no. Yeah, it was our first time. No, it was our second time seeing Numan. Yes, it was our second time seeing
Second
Numan.
time. You know, my sister, she went with us, and I think she was expecting Cars.
I don't know
And-
what she was expecting. I remember her saying she tried looking up the discography and just gave up because she was blown away that there was like over 28 albums or something like that.
Oh yeah, he's got a huge collection. In my opinion, the spectacle I saw was the best I've ever seen. I have not seen that kind of theatrics. And I'm not talking about fireworks, nothing like that, but just the overall look when the chorus lit up and all of a sudden for the first time you could see the members of the band playing. That was an effect that was really striking.
The thing I remember the most was we all meet up afterwards because you guys went elsewhere and I went to the front. I remember we went, wasn't that great? Yeah. Did you know any of the songs? No, because he made another album and we can't keep up. And it was a phenomenal album. It's one of those albums now I play. I don't want to say religiously, but I play it a lot. I don't know what it is. He just went super industrial and super dark wave. And I don't know. I feel like that's almost like his gold standard is Ghost Nation.
Yeah, this is, of course, the album Savage with the lead song Ghost Nation. But I'll say that was the best intro of any concert I've ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
That was really incredible. From a musicianship standpoint, I mean, we went and saw Tool. That was pretty incredible. And I don't think Gary's band stacks up like that. But from a visual standpoint, yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, he stole the show. I mean, I really appreciate the theatrics that Tool went because Tool did the right thing. I think Tool went the right way of saying, look, let's not go crazy. Let's just play our music videos in the back. For the record, I'm glad they did. I think that was one of the best shows I've ever been to. But man, Numan, that was a fantastic concert.
So we do recommend that if you ever have Gary Numan showing up in your area,
Absolutely.
really go see him. Okay, let's play some more tunes here. Oh, we didn't talk about the choral thing, but if you'll notice in that last song, he has this very nice chorus, and I just love it. Okay, let's go on to the next.
I am told now and forever I know things end. I'll be lost in the forever until I find you again. Whatever you need, I'll be in your heart forever. Whatever you feel, I'll be in your heart forever. Whatever you wish, I'll be in your heart forever.
When I was asleep, lost two dreams, I was dying in a big machine. Didn't think the voice that called me could be real. Thought I woke up, lost my faith, I was staring at the face of rage. Didn't think I'd see the demon in his heart. Thought I saw blood turn to wine, the vision from the angel was. Didn't think I'd find the savior in the dark. Thought I saw a light tear the storm, showing me the way to God. Didn't know that heaven died or went to hell.
Blessed is heaven, blessed love shadows and pain. Blessed is heaven, blessed is death in his name. Burn the prophets of reason, light up the sky for you. Kill the children of Eden. If you want me to, closing dead eyes of golden lane. If they offended you, this is absolute. This is absolute truth. This is absolute. This is absolute
And we hear the chorus again. Again, as we mentioned before, he has that really nice chorus effect that he uses in a lot of his songs. I just dig it. And that last song, Absolution, it is one of the better Gary Numan songs from that era.
Another song about his wife.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's so funny how he found his calling with the dark wave. And his example of a romantic song is like, I'll kill the children of Eden for you. It's
Makes you want to
neat
cry.
song.
And they say chivalry is dead.
If you look at Gary and his interaction with his kids, it looks like one of those families you see on commercials. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, and I'm not used to seeing that. Now, we always known that musicians have these children, and often they become musicians themselves. They always never seem to be involved with their kids, at least not publicly. He has no trouble. He drags his daughters up on stage and everything.
It's like a family business now.
Yeah, and he is a family man, unlike any rock star I know of.
Yeah.
He's a dad.
I will say this, the 7 people listening to this podcast, go to Gary Numan Wikipedia right now. He has the most dad photo, and I'm willing to bet he uploaded it. Like, check it out. Both of you, check it out right now. Let's take 2 seconds really quickly. It's ridiculous. It's just him in his car with his iPhone, I assume, and he just took a selfie and just put it on Wikipedia.
Him in his car.
He feels safest of all.
Have you ever heard his explanation as to how he came up with the song Cars?
I think
No.
he just bought a bass guitar and just started playing on it, didn't he? No. That was
He
our friend
stuck
the
in
electric.
traffic, and he got a guy attack him.
Oh,
And he's inside his car, and he had his doors locked, and he was thinking, man, I'm so glad I was in my car. And all of a sudden, it hit. and he came up with that song. And you'll hear that one long keyboard. He just presses down. I don't remember what note it is, and he holds on to it for like a minute. And you would think that most rock stars would come up with some like fabulous explanation as to why they would use this long keyboard sound. And when they asked him in an interview, he said, I was pushing it down, trying to think of what to do next, and I couldn't think of anything. And that's how that long sound comes about. The honesty in him is truly incredible. I mean, every other musician would have come up with some really cool explanation.
Yeah.
But no, it's like, no, I just couldn't think of what else to play at the time.
I mean, I love Bowie. I'm a big Bowie fan, but everyone and their mother knows he was a diva.
Yeah, I'll say this. David Bowie was one of the hardest interviews ever.
Yeah.
And Gary Numan is probably about the easiest.
Yeah.
With Bowie, you could ask him, well, how you been doing? And you're just going to get fine. That's it. And he seemed to revel in the fact that you would be very uncomfortable with it. He was pretentious. And get me wrong, I love Bowie. Fantastic musician. I grew up on him. I had every album, but I would be terrified to interview him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But Numan is by far the easiest interview I've ever seen. He doesn't make you nervous, right?
No.
I mean, but I will say, I've seen Gary Numan in a past interview where he comes in, he looks like an android. He's got, the real pale looks. He's looking like an alien. And I'm sure that the interviewer was this really nice lady. She must have been like really worried. And then when she asked him, instead of this android type person, it was like interviewing somebody's pop. So it was really kind of strange.
He's got that favorite uncle you only see at Thanksgiving vibes. I think you showed me one of the interviews where they asked him like, oh, so why are you no longer touring? He's like, oh, I got married. And he just starts showing pictures of his wife in his wallet. It's like, isn't she pretty? And it's like, oh my God.
It's
this
true.
is adorable.
The next ones we're going to come up with is Hybrid, which, by the way, is really industrial. Ancients, which is a gorgeous song, and Prayer for the Unborn. We talk about dark wave and how it sort of morphed into a much more industrial type of stuff, very much like Nine Inch Nails. Well, you kind of heard it there.
And Nine Inch Nails, they make it very apparent that they were influenced by Gary Numan. You're not the biggest Nine Inch Nails fan, right?
No, I'm not. I'm really not a big Nine Inch Nails fan. It's one of those bands I'm supposed to love, and I don't. And I just don't get them. Okay, so let's play some more.
Well, we should probably talk a little bit about Prayer for the Unborn.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that. Go ahead.
Probably the song for me personally. I love the mix. I love the layering in that song. There is so much going on. And that is another song of his where if you put headphones on, it's a different song.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds very different. But then I remember I was like a young teenager, and you had told me that the song was about his child dying. That discovery was when I would start sitting down on a chair and just reading lyrics and really not even understanding, just kind of noticing for the first time how people kind of interpret their pain or how people explain their pain. And I mean, there was something about Prayer for the Unborn that it really clicked. And I remember music actually changed quite a bit for me. I started re-listening to a lot of albums, just appreciating them in a different way. It elevated it. And this song, that did it for me. There's fewer topics you can talk about that would be more painful to discuss. The loss of a kid, you know. I have no clue what that would be like, and I have no clue how I'd be able to sing about that, how to interpret that, how to describe that to the masses.
He said that the song is therapeutic, didn't he?
I think so. Everyone has their favorite, but this is my gold standard for it. It's a beautiful song. It's layered to me perfectly. You really can't change it. And then the symbolism and the lyrics behind it elevates it to that extra level where it's like, I wish more people knew about this song in particular.
Anybody wanting to see the video for it, where he plays it live, is one of the best videos I've seen for a song. Prayer for the Unborn by Gary Numan. You got to check it out. Just wonderfully done.
Is that the one where he comes out with his daughters afterwards?
No, this is much older than that.
Okay. Was it at our concert, or I think I might have just saw it online on YouTube. He played A Prayer for the Unborn as his encore song. And then when it was all said and done, people are cheering. He runs back out, and he runs back behind the curtain. He's gone for a little bit. And then he comes running out like a proud dad with his two little daughters, one in each arm. And they're just so confused because to them, this is just dad. But there's a whole crowd of people just cheering. And he's got these cute kids in cute pink dresses. They're not little gothy kids. They just look like average suburban kids. It's an adorable moment. And now they're in his music.
Oh yeah. What's the other? It's Persia, and I forget the name of the other kid.
He's got three. He has three daughters: Raven, Persia, and Echo.
More tunes?
I think so.
Wanna beg forgiveness, then you wanna beg for mercy, then you wanna beg for nothing, then you I would always find my way to you. your dream will come for you and breathe in your pain.
He's done something very extraordinary, and that he has been able to reinvent himself, and I would say in a very genuine way. I mean, there's always been these rock artists that have gone off and done other things. For example, Hugh Cornwell from the Stranglers, he became a mariachi player. You had Paul Simon doing a South African thing, but you also get the idea that that's really not their music, and it never came off very well. But Gary is darkwave. And so it's kind of interesting. He starts off into the electronic pop stuff, and obviously he's good at that because he had some huge hits. But that kind of genre kind of went by the wayside, and he was searching for something else, and he tried whatever was popular. Then when he latched onto darkwave, it just turns out that he's a natural for it. It's just truly incredible that a musical artist can reinvent himself so thoroughly 40 years after the fact and move forward and produce stuff that's really fresh and interesting and high quality. It's unheard of. Even the Stones had a Grammy album here not too long ago. And this was 50 years after like some of the early stuff, right? But if you listen to it, it's the Stones. But his album Intruder doesn't sound like his 1970s stuff at all.
I got two things to say. One, I'm surprised you're saying you don't like the jazz albums. I thought you liked the jazz albums.
No, I didn't say I didn't like it. I actually do like the jazz albums, but he's not a jazz artist.
No, okay, I see what you're saying.
Know, he's not a natural in that, and I don't think that would have lasted long.
I'll be honest, I would never really listen to it. If I do, because I've listened to recently, I re-listened to She's Got Claws. They're not bad, but they do not sound authentic. It definitely sounds like he's trying. All his music now sounds so natural. It sounds like it's just second nature to him.
If you listen to the newer albums, you would swear that this is some 25-year-old dude.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's 63.
I think so. Yeah.
And I do highly recommend our listeners to go in and buy Savage and Intruder. They are, in my opinion, the best he's done. I think Sacrifice is a fantastic album. Maybe it's my favorite, but Savage and Intruder are truly incredible albums. Keep in mind, I grew up with Gary. Replicas, which was his first album, was fantastic, and I still play it on occasion. But I will say Savage and Intruder are better. It's the best stuff he's ever done. And so far. Yeah, and I'm waiting for another album. I'm sure it's going to be really good, but yeah, the latest album, Intruder's got some fantastic stuff on it.
Which, by the way, the latest album came out this year, so it's very relevant. And I think it's number 2 in the UK charts. So
it opened at number 2. It's no longer.
Okay, but it's already proving to be a success.
What I find interesting about him reaching number 2 is it's not because people bought him because, oh, it's Gary Numan, he's right. The Rolling Stones are going to always have a very large carryover audience that will buy anything Stones. But Gary Numan doesn't really have that. People are not going out and buying Gary Numan's albums because of what he did with Cars 40 years ago.
No.
And so his sales are driven largely by a new, fresh sound that people are picking up. And I would bet that a ton of the people buying his album are not that familiar with his old stuff.
You know what? We'll table that for the next episode because you know what? I'm kind of interested to see if there's some age demographics on that, like who bought the new album.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Put your hand in the box, see how it plays for you. I've watched you take your life and tear it apart. Put your pain in a box, I'll send them back to you. What have you become, a shadow of man? Do you fall like the rain on the crying, golden alone, like the victory lying? Do you fall like the dance from the ruin?
In our next installment, we'll be focusing on a different musical genre, dub, with the Dub Syndicate. So stay tuned for that. You're going to love it.